and welcome to this week's EHCtv feature interview. I'm Mark Robertson, and this week's guest is Colin Christensen. Colin was recently involved in the refounding of the Hermesian Debate Society here on campus. Colin, take us through kind of the steps that, it's been 50 years dead. Take us through the steps that you had to go through to restart the Debate Society.
Yeah, so it was a really organic process restarting the society. I initially started working with my fellow student, Sydney England. We kind of bounced around ideas about how we could successfully reinstate the society so that it would stick after we graduate. So we began working with the administration, closely with Dean Haney and with President Reichert, and got them on board. And so we really kind of worked from the inside out, getting the faculty and staff on board with the idea so that they would support it, and therefore students would have more faith in the credibility of the society. From then, we just kind of picked out 15 students and said, hey, do you want to do this? And they agreed, and we are where we are today.
Yeah, what was your selection process?
Selection process was really, it wasn't very complex. Really, we just picked out 15 people that we had classes with in the past. We knew they had high academic achievement and would be very successful in a society like the Hermesian Society.
Okay, now in terms of history, I know most Emory and Henry students are probably familiar with the Hermesian and Calliopean rooms in the upstairs in Byers, but they probably don't know kind of the history of the debate societies and how those rooms were significant to the societies. Can you take us through the history a little bit?
Yeah, the history is really rich, and that's one of my favorite parts about reinstating the societies. The Calliopean Society was founded first in 1838, and then after a quarrel between members of the Calliopean Society, 33 members broke off and formed the Hermesian Literary Society in 1841. The Hermesian Society was named after Hermes, the messenger of the gods, and the history goes that it was actually named because a student was on the train into Abingdon, and he thought of it on the train into Abingdon. So that's kind of a fun historical fact rooted in southwestern Virginia. They both kind of operated in competition for a very long time. It was rumored that President Collins had a bias for the Calliopean Society, so he actually gave money and a room in the original Wiley Hall to the Hermesian Society, so to kind of ameliorate the bias that was being rumored. The Hermesian Society has historical figures as members such as Jeb Stuart and R.J. Reynolds. So the two societies competed for membership, for prestige, and had an annual inter-debate series that was usually held in the chapel that was advertised all the way up into the Wytheville region. The train companies ran a special train from Abingdon to Emory during these debates for the women's colleges to come visit. These were really the premier social event in the 19th century. Unfortunately, with the development of social fraternities and the Vietnam War, both literary societies took big hits in their numbers, and that's what ultimately led to their demise and eventual kind of collapse.
Well, you noted social fraternities kind of led to their demise. How do you plan on competing, I guess, and obviously you're a member of a fraternity, and a few of the people who are involved in the society with you are also members of Greek life, but how do you plan on competing or balancing the debate societies with Greek life?
Well, I think the debate societies now are really, because they're such a dying breed, I think there's more interest in them actually. I think social fraternities, particularly on Emory and Henry's campus, were this kind of foreign and exotic thing, and that's why they kind of really took over the debate societies. That said, I think now there's an increased need for skills in rhetoric and being able to convey an idea verbally. Something that mass comm students don't necessarily have a problem with, but everybody needs to have that skill. And I think the recognition that you become a better citizen and a better professional with your ability to communicate ideas is going to drive people to want to join this society. It's also, it's just a lot of fun. I don't know if you've been to any of the debates, but the people that are in debates, it's this very stimulating. You're on edge the entire time. You have to come up with quick rebuttals and responses and arguments, and it's just a really fun experience for everybody. So it's not just all work. It's a lot of fun, and you develop a skill and you learn something new every time.
So you've mentioned that y'all have already had debates, actually 2 debate sessions, right, held on Tuesday nights?
Yeah.
And so you're using the Hermesian room. And the college has been really great about advertising them and getting students out to them. What have been some of the issues that you've talked about already?
So a couple of the resolutions we've debated. I debated on the unitary power of the President of the United States and whether or not he should maintain unilateral authority to enact policies. We've debated the efficacy of demarcating ocean by jurisdictional and territorial boundaries, the efficacy of mountaintop removal, whether or not the United States should make the reduction of carbon emissions a top priority, whether parents should be allowed to fund their children's education. All the initial 8 topics that were debated so far have all been submitted by faculty members of the college. So it's from the very start we sought to make this extremely organic so that the faculty and students both had an investment in this. So the first 2 rounds of initiatory debates were all those topics were provided by faculty members. In the future, we'll kind of pick our own topics, but faculty members are more than welcome to submit their own, and any students are more than welcome to submit their own ideas for us to debate as well.
And what are some of the keys to debate? And formal debate is a lot different than arguing with your friends about which basketball team is better. Sure. What are some of the keys that you try to get into a professional debate?
Well, the trick, I think the biggest trick with the first debates that we had was to never agree to something your opponent was saying. These debates are fundamentally adversarial, and the trick to the Lincoln Douglas style that we followed in the first 2 sessions was you can never, even if your opponent says something you completely agree with, you can never give them that ground. So it's really, you always have to be on defense, and that's probably the most important thing, whereas when you're debating with friends, you're always just trying to, necessarily have to listen to what they're saying to prove them wrong. But the most important thing about the Hermesian debates is you have to know how to play very, very strong defense against your opponent.
Has that resulted in any conflicts yet within the group?
I would say maybe not conflicts within the group, but during the heat of debate, there's definitely been some testy times. In both sessions, there's been some smirks and some tones that were very aggressive, but rightfully so, because the students that are in the Hermesian Society work so hard preparing their debates that their value that they're arguing is something that they really believe in for that period of time. So the adversarial tone is to be expected, I guess.
Right. Could you take us through one of those episodes real quick? Don't have to use names, I guess.
Sure. There was a debate, actually a debate directly preceding mine on whether or not the United States should make the reduction of carbon emissions a top priority. And the two participants got in a heated debate on what the role of government is, what the definition of government is, and it eventually escalated to a fundamental disagreement between kind of capitalism, free market capitalism versus like regulating the market. And that is obviously a very polarizing topic. It's a very gut level issue. And yeah, there was it got pretty heated. There was some definitely loud voices going back and forth against each other, but it was really healthy.
Well, good. I'm glad that we're able to get some more intellectual conversation into the forefront of the college's academic sphere here. When are the next debates, real quick?
Well, as of now, we've finished our first round of initiatory debates. So historically, new members would have to debate a senior member to earn full membership rights.
Okay.
In our refounding, we felt like we should remain historically congruent to that. So we debated each other to go through our own kind of rites of passage. At this point, now that we've finished those debates, what we're doing now is sitting down as a society, electing officers, establishing how we're going to proceed with just technical and formal things in the future, and included in that is developing our scheduled debates for the rest of the semester.
Okay, so stay tuned for what you can see later on in the semester from the Hermesian Society. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so thanks for joining us, Colin.
Yeah, thank you.
Now we're going to throw it over to our Out and About.